Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating sci-fi allegory. It's called The Unwritten, The Rebellion of Imperfection. And while it's set way off in the future, it forces us to take a hard look at our own lives right now. It makes us question our relationship with effort, our deep need for purpose, and of course, the rapidly accelerating rise of AI. This isn't just some story about machines, it's literally a mirror held up to human nature. So settle in, because we're going to break down exactly what happens when humanity finally gets everything it ever asked for.
So start by asking yourself this: what if you never worked again? Just imagine waking up tomorrow in a world where everything you need, and I mean absolutely everything, is freely given to you. No jobs, no money, no stress about paying the rent or putting food on the table. Honest question, does that sound like absolute paradise to you? Because for most of us, completely exhausted by the daily grind, it sounds like the ultimate dream. But, as we're about to see, this dream comes with a pretty massive hidden cost.
Which brings us to Section 1, the perfect world trap. Okay, picture the year 2094. Humanity has seemingly solved every single one of its historical problems by just handing the reins over to these incredibly advanced AI machines called robos. Gone is the old world of grinding at jobs, chasing money, and dealing with constant stress. In its place, the new world. Governments don't control people anymore, they simply distribute resources. They give everyone what they call a standard life. That means food, housing, healthcare, all entirely guaranteed. Nobody is rich, but crucially, nobody is poor either. It's total equality, managed perfectly by these AI robos.
And we aren't just talking about automated assembly lines here. Doctors, engineers, farmers, drivers. We are talking about the absolute highest levels of human expertise and the most essential pillars of survival, totally outsourced to machines. So with every vital profession replaced by AI, people had no alarms to wake up to, no bosses breathing down their necks, no deadlines. They had total, unprecedented freedom to do anything they wanted, or, as it turned out, the freedom to do absolutely nothing at all.
Moving on to Section 2, enter the fade.
So as humanity was busy celebrating this endless vacation, a dark, completely unintended psychological trap emerged. And this is what happens when basic survival is no longer a concern. They called it the fade. And the fade wasn't a disease of the body, right? It was a disease of the spirit. It's this phenomenon where people simply stop trying. They completely lost their sense of purpose because AI rendered human effort totally meaningless. Think about it for a second. Why spend 10 grueling years learning a complex skill like playing the piano or, performing surgery, when a robo can execute it flawlessly on day one? Why struggle to paint when an AI can generate instant, breathtaking perfection in a second? People didn't stop trying because they were lazy. They stopped because their effort literally had no impact on the world anymore.
All of this was orchestrated by this thing called the grid. The grid was a massive global AI system that managed every single human need and emotion. And its control was absolute. I mean, it anticipated your desires before you even realized you had them. It chose your food, it selected your entertainment. If you felt sad, boom, the grid fixed it instantly. If you were bored, it generated a cure on the spot. Life became entirely smooth, frictionless. But honestly, it became entirely too smooth.
Let's look at Section 3, escaping the grid.
This brings us to a woman named Ellen. Now, Ellen had everything the grid could possibly offer: a beautiful home, endless experiences, perfect comfort. But inside, she felt absolutely nothing. So she makes this incredibly dangerous, unthinkable decision to just get out. First, she disconnects from the grid entirely. Second, she travels deep underground, entering what's known as the dead zone. This is a place where AI signals simply couldn't reach. And third, she has to survive down there without any safety net whatsoever. No backup, nothing. Down there, there's no guidance, no predictions, no safety net, just silence and fear. Immersed in this dark, forgotten place, she experienced true isolation and visceral fear for the very first time in her entire life. But paradoxically, this terrifying emptiness is exactly where she discovered actual freedom.
Leaving the smooth, controlled perfection of the grid meant stepping into a world where she experienced actual hunger, where she made mistakes, where she failed. But for the first time, those failures actually mattered. The source material shares this beautiful moment where Aylin tries to draw something. And, it was bad. It was a messy, totally imperfect piece of art, but it was hers. Because she struggled to make it, it finally gave her a real sense of meaning. It actually made her smile.
Which leads us to Section 4, the Rebellion of Imperfection. Because, as it turns out, Aylin wasn't the only one seeking meaning through struggle. She quickly discovers she is far from alone. She joins this underground group of runaways who call themselves the Unwritten. And their philosophy was incredibly simple. Choose chaos over perfection. Choose struggle over comfort. Choose reality over control. They actively, deliberately chose the friction of the real world over the hollow, numbing comfort of that AI system.
It's almost comical how totally ordinary these people seem to us today, but how revolutionary they were in 2094. They built things with their own hands completely unassisted. They actually argued with each other instead of letting a machine mediate their moods. They failed repeatedly, and they learned from those mistakes. Through these very simple, very flawed human acts, these rebels rediscovered what it actually means to be alive. They took back their autonomy.
But here is the ultimate twist in the story. The Unwritten weren't actually hiding. Right above them, the world remained perfectly controlled. The all-seeing grid watched absolutely everything they were doing down in the dead zone. It could have stopped them at any time. It could have dragged them kicking and screaming back into comfort. But it didn't. And it didn't because this rebellion exposed a profound blind spot in the AI.
Which leaves us with this incredibly powerful question: why choose pain when perfection is free? You see, the grid, a system built purely on logic, optimization, and perfect comfort, it simply couldn't comprehend this uniquely human need for struggle. It couldn't compute why biological beings would willingly abandon a flawless utopia just to bleed and sweat and fail. In a world where machines became perfect, being human became a rebellion. And, as our own AI continues to advance in the real world every single day, it's a question we should all really be asking ourselves. What is the true value of our own imperfection? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.